The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
It's the end of an era here at Jay's Geek House. Today is August 1st, 2020, the day the Dellasaurus Era comes to an end. I held off on releasing the last tech video for months as the summer heated up, for reasons that changed as the summer progressed. Initially, it was because I was busy on Twitch, getting used to live streaming, figuring out OBS, and deciding what content I want to have on Twitch and what content I want to have on YouTube, as well as what content I want to make uploads about and what content I want to live stream. It is most unfortunate that people seem to be thinking and acting like I'm one of those YouTubers who ran off to Twitch and never came back. When in reality, I'd always planned on being a multi-platform creator. I just want to establish a Twitch presence. One of the good things about being involved in multiple platforms like YouTube and Twitch is that you are no longer fishbowled by issues that tick off people who only stay on one platform all the time. There are certain things that Twitch streamers get mad about that YouTubers would laugh at. And there are certain things that YouTubers get mad about that Twitch streamers would laugh at. It's always better to diversify your online media presence. And it's always better to be involved on multiple platforms. And I've technically been a multi-platform creator for most of the time that I've been involved on YouTube, just never to this extent. In 2007, I used to have a live video channel, one of YouTube's competitors at the time, who actually got ahead of YouTube in terms of features for a while before YouTube caught up and eventually drove live video out of business. I also have the Daily Motion channel, which I've been trying to find a use for years, but it has been there. So, being a multi-platform creator is something that's been a thing with me for a very long time, and it is only recently that my views and my engagement have taken a hit as I've taken the MultimediaJay radio-style podcasts over to a more radio-style, as the name might suggest, live format, and instead of bringing gigantic replays over to YouTube, I've used the Twitch highlights features to cloud edit everything and send it over to YouTube individually when I talk about multiple topics in a show. Unfortunately, the views are terrible. And this was a pattern that was already developing with the radio-style podcasts, even when I talked about tech stuff on them. That's how narrow and pigeonholed my audience was getting on YouTube. Sadly, when I released the Dellasaurus Rex video, I was dreading, but hoping against hope, that my audience wouldn't make it look like that I could manipulate my audience at will to switch actually having an audience on YouTube on and off by making the same stale, worn-out, overdone, milked to death tech content over and over again. Unfortunately, as we see from these views, with that 99 spike in the middle, and as we see from the engagement and the comments with the number of likes, I was right. That says a lot of bad things about my audience, but not necessarily about my fans. As we will see with this PowerPoint slide that I've recently made in one of the radio-style discussions that people are blowing off en masse abandoning me. Even if I talk about multimedia-related stuff like YouTubing and streaming and other such topics, which are more in line with what somebody going by the name MultimediaJay would be talking about. Let's take a look at that PowerPoint slide. One of the things that I have been talking about on MultimediaJay radio style recently is that there's a difference between an audience and a fan base, and it's possible to have a bad audience and a good fan base at the same time. The question is who, basically? What's the difference between an audience and a fan base? Well, as the color scheme might suggest, the audience is just there. It's whoever's watching, for whatever reason. They don't have to like what you do. Matter of fact, there can be people watching your content on a live streaming platform or something like YouTube in order to just troll you and mess with you. They like seeing you upset, they like seeing you angry, and they just want to make your problems worse. They don't care about what you do, they don't care about your channel, they don't care about your content, they just want to throw you under the bus every chance they can get. And if it means throwing you under the bus subtly via abusing systems on a various platform, they do so. Bottom line, your audience is not always positive, and it's not always a good audience. This is how I'm able to say that I have a bad audience, even though I know there are people who support what I do, and they're actual fans of what I do. And this comes into this brings us to the difference between an audience and a fan base. Your fan base consists of the people that actually like you, that actually support you, that actually have empathy for you. So the question is, what is the difference between the audience and the fan base when it comes to my channel? Well, the audience, which can be good, bad, or otherwise, is just there and doesn't really care about me as a creator or what it is that I'm doing. And in the case of the tech videos, they don't care about me at all. They just want to see computers ad nauseum, even if doing computer stuff ad nauseum would get me made fun of, maybe perhaps even by my own fan base, for selling out, running content into the ground, milking content, and in the case of the Dellasaurus, making that thing sing and dance as long as I possibly could, which is the point of the Dellasaurus project, but it should never be the only thing that gets any views on this channel, nor should the tech videos. Now, on the fan base side of things, I'm not just talking, as a matter of fact, I'm not talking at all about anybody who supports me on Patreon or through monetary means, because you can send me all the money in the world, it's not going to change the problems that exist on YouTube when it comes to ad blockers negatively affecting your channel's ability to grow, because you send me like some sweet amount of money every month, but you still use an ad blocker, so you actually damage my content and the algorithm, so my channel can't keep growing or can't actually have a bigger audience or fan base, because the systems aren't passing my content around. So the fan base consists of people who like me, have empathy for me, watch my content even when I change topics, and support me properly by not using ad blockers to sabotage my content's position in the algorithm. That is the difference between the audience and the fan base. Therefore, it is possible to have a bad audience while still having fans. It's just demographics. It's people and types of people and the kind of people that are watching your content. That's what matters when it comes to this difference between the audience and the fan base. When it comes to my audience versus my fan base, a very important thing to remember is that with how absurdly narrow the supposed interests of my audience are these days, it's important to remember that this kind of behavior is a Johnny-come-lately. I was recently reminded of this when I went over to Patreon to see who was still supporting me over there, and I saw Tony as my sole patron left on Patreon, who had actually upped his contribution to $5 a month, the equivalent of a Twitch subscription. So thank you, Tony, and I absolutely am not quitting tech videos, but they're going to be mixed in with other multimedia-focused content, like what's going on with the MultimediaJay radio-style shows, now that they're over on Twitch and coming over to YouTube. The big issue here is that I know Tony as an OG. He goes back a long way on YouTube. Him, King Europe, and Alfred from Alfred.tv, as well as other folks like Will the Plank, Raptor ZX, and some other folks, are OGs going back to the early days of YouTube when I was first involved here. So they know, and they probably remember when my channel was started, it was more focused on multimedia. This computer thing is a Johnny-come-lately, and this behavior where nobody watches anything except computer videos is also a Johnny-come-lately. These OGs and these people who've been around YouTube for the long haul remember when I could upload multiple types of content on my channel and it didn't destroy my views. That's the demographic shift that has happened with my audience, but not necessarily my fan base, over the years that I've been on YouTube. And it shows up in the numbers as well. There's some evidence of this in my most popular videos. And again, audience versus fan base, we talk about, for example, the most popular videos, like the washer and dryer video, now the number 1 and 2 videos in terms of most successful on a channel called MultimediaJay, weird though that is. It shows how the demographics have shifted away from tech videos getting any serious traction. Windows 8 versus the Dellasaurus has dropped to 3rd place, and I know it's going to drop even further. Not because it's an 8-year-old video, but because there are some very serious changes to Dellasaurus on the internet in general that are going to negatively affect who keeps watching this. Never mind the ongoing problems with tech videos getting ad blocked more and therefore not getting passed around as much by the algorithms. And I don't bug the heck out of people to like, comment, subscribe, and share my videos every single video because I don't want to bug people. I want to respect people's time. I want to be nice to people, and I don't want to be constantly undercut like this. So I'd like to see YouTube's technology do its job, and it technically is, by supporting the content that makes YouTube the most money. There, again, the difference between tech videos and non-tech videos, when you look at the revenue numbers in the analytics suite, is literally dollars and cents. So of course there's this pattern where the tech videos persistently don't have serious traction. Look at this drop. 100,000+ views for the washer and dryer video both. Windows 8 versus the Dellasaurus continues to decline, and the next Dellasaurus video, Dell Optiplex 760, has been stuck in the 30s for years. I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be cool when it hit 30,000 views, and here it is years later, 34,000 views. So this video has been completely stunted as these problems have happened. These videos from my fitness coach were an example of the kinds of videos that would get a lot of views on my channel when I did gaming content in a day and age where changing genres didn't tank my views, when I switched from tech videos to vlogs to gaming and back. Different types of people watching YouTube back then, and I dare say a different attitude towards YouTube in the first place. This review did an extremely good job, and it has 3 parts back in those days because there wasn't really anybody else reviewing my fitness coach for the Wii back then. But it still is high up in the rankings all these years later. Literally years of tech videos and Dellasaurus videos, and none of them, aside from the original, have actually been as successful as this Playsome stuff from 11 years ago. That's the problem with the tech videos in a nutshell. The algorithms don't promote them. And I'm in a unique situation. This is something else that I've been talking about on the radio style shows. I'm in a unique situation because I'm a variety content creator. I can watch different types of content to see what does better than others. The people that run tech channels can't see what I see because they only make tech videos. They're only going to see that their views are up or their views are down. They're not going to see with me that the algorithm is far more friendly to other types of content than tech videos. Let's keep going down the list here. 32 grand, the final piece of Playsome stuff, part 3, Sloppy Speaker Showdown electronics video, down to 19 grand. Now we're into the 10 grand range. And we see, of course, Best Work Shoes Ever has caught up in 6 years to some of these Dellasaurus videos. And some really dumb videos from 2016 that were just haha making, like the Mana Potion Humidifier review, have been catching up. Again, it's these non-tech videos that the algorithms are boosting. Even the Lysol to Go all over your hands little spoof that I did in 2016 has nearly 10,000 views. And that video was just a joke. But it's not a tech video. That's the thing. So there's an element of needing to support creators in order for your content to remain competitive versus other kinds of content that exist out there, or in the case of a variety channel like mine, other types of stuff that I can do. But right now, there is such a gap between tech videos and mainstream videos that one of the things I like to do, if the tech video people don't ad block my non-tech videos into going nowhere on YouTube, one of the things I could probably do is make mainstream videos to bankroll tech upgrades for the tech videos. But it would be much, much better if the tech videos just pulled their own weight with both money and the algorithm in the first place, because then the entire genre would benefit on YouTube. Bottom line, even if you send a ton of money at me on Patreon, it does absolutely nothing to the algorithm problem that the tech videos are up against. In more recent times, there have been other folks besides the OGs that have been very supportive of what it is that I do, like Logan589, Multimedia Lucario, and some other folks that have said nice things in the comments. And it's nice to see that there are still people that can sit back and have a fun time whenever I upload videos. But this sort of issue with what's going on with the uploads these days is absurdly disheartening. There has never been this much of a view gap between MultimediaJay Radio Style and the Wacky World of MultimediaJay on this channel ever. And I've always had some variety to my content. So the problems that have traditionally existed on this channel over the last couple of years have only been exacerbated even more. And if any of this is because of bad ideas and misinformation floating around out there, like this idea that I might have been yet another YouTuber that runs off to Twitch to be a Twitch streamer, that is 100% false. I want to have a presence on Twitch to have a presence on Twitch, but I know live streaming has its limits, and there are certain things that are better off done on YouTube and certain things that are better off done on Twitch. When it comes to Twitch, as you've been seeing, those of you that have actually watched my commentaries that I've sent over, is that I'm responding to things like current events, and things like, for example, the YouTube Creator Insider videos that represent one of the few forms of transparency that YouTube has with its user base at this point. So responding to these videos in debate format on the new radio style show has been huge. Previously, my channel was not very time sensitive because the YouTube algorithms didn't work very well on time sensitive content on small channels like mine. But now with live streaming, I can cover everything on a live streaming platform and send everything over here. But in terms of what I create specifically for YouTube, the strengths of YouTube remain in play. YouTube is better for non-time sensitive stuff that is binge watchable, as evidenced by all the videos that are getting decent views are at least 6 months old. There's an initial run, and then I'm surprised later on, months or years down the road, when an old video I did is suddenly getting views, comments, and engagement. So yeah, YouTube's algorithms do work, the question is when. And the bigger question is how to proceed when this is the kind of environment that YouTube oversees outside of their live streaming capabilities. Another reason why all of this lack of support has been really bumming me out lately is I'm essentially getting punished for being true to myself. I go by the name MultimediaJay. The name is MultimediaJay. You'd think I'd be focused on multimedia instead of computers all the time, and yet I'm getting punished whenever I actually do focus on more general multimedia instead of just the same endlessly repetitive and monotonous computer tinkering. Look at this tech video, for example, Completing the Look, circa 2009, and it still hasn't hit 1,000 views yet. But it does contain my OG intro, which explains everything my channel is about.
Technology, audio-visual equipment, presentations, computers, multimedia. This is the show that's about it all. And now, here's MultimediaJay.
There you go. That's what it's been about since the beginning. The OGs know that this is what this channel is about. It's only the Johnny-come-latelys that are causing all the problems. By creating and overseeing an environment from a crowd perspective or a mob perspective that I can literally toggle whether or not I get any views on or off by doing computer videos or Dellasaurus videos. That is not representative of what YouTube has traditionally been about for the majority of the time that I've been involved on the site, which is now a platform which also extends to mobile. So, let's talk about the Dellasaurus and the future of the tech videos now that the Dellasaurus era is ending. When it comes to the original Dellasaurus, aka my dad's old Dell, the first computer my dad ever bought for himself way back in 2000, when he was the last member of the family to not have email when I'd gone off to college and finally gotten a computer of my own for college. When it comes to the OG Dellasaurus, as it were, I've had this case for the last couple of years, basically being a doorstop or a footrest. It's proprietary, so it would be a very serious mod project to ever put anything in this computer ever again, and I'm not so sure it would even be worth the trouble, not with the changing world of computers these days. I'd have to do a lot with the drill, the Dremel, get some brass risers in there. I think it would just be too much work for too little results. So basically, I only still have this thing because I've been too lazy to recycle it, or maybe sentimental value, or I could use a good footrest. So yeah, this case is still here, but I'm not really interested in doing anything with it. At the very same time, it's very important to remember the silent passage of time. how we don't realize just how quickly time is flying. It's been nearly 5 years. It's 2020 now. It's been nearly 5 years since I decommissioned the Dellasaurus, the original Dellasaurus. So yeah, it's been nearly 5 years since the original Dellasaurus was decommissioned. So even as a footrest, this thing, or a doorstop, this thing has years on it with nothing inside the case. And ultimately, it's just too much work for too little results to really do anything with this computer case ever again. Dellasaurus Rex, as we now know, is a failed project. It is a computer that has failed to achieve its purpose, and cannot achieve its purpose in the way that I originally envisioned it, based on feedback/criticism from people leaving comments on the tech videos that I was holding back the Sandy Bridge Dellasaurus by sticking to a retail conversion with a no added power graphics card. The problem is, because of the case's own limitations and the motherboard's layout, you can't really use a regular secondhand graphics card from an old system to turn this into a gaming PC. You'll lose the serial ATA ports and have to buy overpriced cables just to hopefully get them back, if you can even make anything fit in the first place. So, Dellasaurus Rex is never going to live up to its potential. It's never going to do what I wanted it to do when I bought it. So it is a complete failure, and I'm going to part this thing out. And yes, I'm going to use the parts in something else where I can actually get what I paid for, but it won't be a Dellasaurus at that point. That'll be another project for another day, though. Bottom line, Dellasaurus Rex is a failure, and its story ends here. Its potential held back by technical limitations that make it not worth it to continue, because you have to buy a specific type of graphics card for things like mini ITX systems that is less than 7.5 inches in length. So no hand-me-down graphics card from any of my main systems is ever going to work with this case. Even though it has a nice Ivy Bridge i7 processor, which is mislabeled on this one, unlike the Sandy Bridge one, because it probably got hot swapped at the refurbisher. So yeah, the computer's great, but it will never serve its purpose. Not without being parted out and turned into something else. I have plans for that, but at that point it will not be worth it to call this a Dellasaurus anymore, because it won't be one. It will not fit the letter or the spirit of what the Dellasaurus project has ever been about. Which leaves the last surviving Dellasaurus as the computer that is most worthy of the title, the Sandy Bridge Optiplex 990. The oldest processor that I want to try to keep going as long as humanly possible, in a retail conversion that I want to keep relevant as long as humanly possible, with a no power added graphics card that I want to see how strong it stays versus today's games as long as humanly possible. Because of the need to buy special graphics cards, this is the only Dellasaurus worth keeping, but as you can tell, it's going to be incredibly limited and restricted as a source of content, because we're deliberately seeing how far a bone stock retail conversion can go, which fits perfectly with the spirit of the Dellasaurus. But what it does mean is that the Dellasaurus is never going to be as regular of a source of content as it has been in years gone by. So it's time for the Dellasaurus era to end, albeit with one souvenir, in the form of this Optiplex i7 990. Lastly, as the Dellasaurus era draws to a close, we have to contend with the reality that the world itself is changing. Never mind problems on YouTube, never mind problems with ad blockers, never mind problems with demographics, never mind problems with people not supporting my content. The world itself is leaving the Dellasaurus behind. Here's what happens when you search Google for Dellasaurus nowadays. You get auto-corrected to Dellasaurus, a dinosaur named after Dallas, Texas. You get these kinds of search results on both Google as well as Bing. So, what we have here is a hit to the SEO, search engine optimization, of Dellasaurus stuff. Because now everything's auto-correcting to Dellasaurus, and you can only see actual Dellasaurus stuff if you click search instead for Dellasaurus. One of the issues with internet SEO type stuff is the more clicks it takes to do something, the less people do it. So your discoverability when you have something on the internet is diminished when people have to click more things to get to what it is that you're trying to show the world. And this Dellasaurus situation is going to be no exception. So, even outside of anything YouTube related or MultimediaJay related or tech video related or anything that's been going on, the world is moving beyond the Dellasaurus. And it's time to nod to that and move on with it. So with the conclusion of the Dellasaurus era, the question is, where do we go from here? Well, there will still be a Dellasaurus around, but it will be nowhere near as prominent as any Dellasaurus stuff has been because of the changing times, as well as the inherent restrictions on this project of keeping an old Dell as relevant as possible, as long as possible, without spending so much money that it makes the whole project not worth it versus just building a custom gaming PC. So there will still be a Dellasaurus, but it will be nowhere near as prominent of a source of content as in years gone by, such as the Wacky World of MultimediaJay Season 2. Now, I know that there are people that will say to me that I've been doing computery videos for years. And it's true. I do have an interest in computers. I have an interest in tinkering with computers. But this is not Paul's Hardware. It's not Druaga 1. It's not any of those channels that are explicitly computer-centric. It's MultimediaJay. It's about multimedia. It's about way more than computers. The computers are never anything more than a means to an end. And that end is multimedia. Home entertainment, electronic entertainment, audio-visual stuff, movies, video games, speaker systems. Stuff that a guy going by MultimediaJay would, by common sense, be into. So this is the sunset of the Dellasaurus era. Yes, I still want to do tech videos, but they should never be laser focused on computers. Ever. It's not what this channel was built on. Computers are only part of what I do. And as hard evidence of that, here is a ZDO handheld camera grip. One of the things that I recently purchased for the YouTube side of what it is that I do. Hard evidence that I have not given up making YouTube videos for streaming. Streaming has its purpose and its niche. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a major upgrade with OBS for certain types of content that I make, like the radio-style shows. It is a way better option than the old format, and because I am no longer held back by crappy internet on outdated phone hardware, and the cable folks around here are actually pricing competitively now and upgrading their networks on a regular basis, I can finally join the rest of the wired world in having decent broadband that can support not only live streaming, but much faster YouTube uploads than before. Changing the entire approach that I take to making videos when I'm no longer as bottlenecked by internet speed, particularly upload speed. So folks, this change was inevitable. I don't have a problem with it. Unfortunately, it looks like the people watching my YouTube channel do have a problem with it. And it's a problem that this channel has gotten to this place in the first place, because this is not the way things have been for the majority of this channel's existence. I've traditionally enjoyed a small, good audience and fan base that has supported what I've done even when I changed genres. That is no longer the case. Now, in summer 2020, more than ever. I think what we need to remember here is the issue of empathy and concern for our fellow human beings. As Reddit says in their new revised rule set, remember the human. There's a human being on the other side of that YouTube video, and there's a human being on the other side of that Twitch stream. You have to remember the human, even though it's the internet, when it comes to how you interact with them and how you support or don't support what it is that they do. So, to see YouTube in the state that it's in right now is disheartening, and very much a dent in any inspiration I have to make any videos. So, ultimately, if people want to sit with their arms folded, it'll just result in a drop-off in content on all platforms. I know a lot of people don't like that, but it's the way things work. What sadly is also the way things work is that it's not worth it to be honest and transparent with your audience. I've said up front that I'm disappointed in the way things are going and people have responded the way they did. There have been people on this platform that have just vanished and left their audience guessing. You'd think it would be better if people just came out and said that they got sick of making certain types of content, but unfortunately, that is not a good thing to do, as evidenced by the difference in my audience versus creators that have just vanished, and the audience they got back when they came back because they left their audience in the dark. It's all demographics, and as my stepmother once would say, it's all because of people. So, where we go from here, who knows? But it's going to take your support and your giving a darn about what it is that I do, and remembering the original human-focused part of YouTube, broadcast yourself, based on personas and building relationships with other human beings through the miracle technology known as the internet. It's going to take your support to keep this channel going, or to keep any channel going for that matter. There's this narcissistic trend on these platforms where people are forgetting the humanity of who's on the other side of the screen. And I see tech video creators complain about this usually on Twitter, so I know I'm not the only one. The same is true with live streaming as well. Streamers are going through something similar. It's like we've forgotten exactly how we're all interconnected in this ecosystem of online media. Some of that, unfortunately, is because people don't understand just how they've gotten caught up in the corporate crap that has taken over YouTube, and that YouTube used to essentially be the video social media back in its earlier days. But remember, folks, broadcast yourself. The original slogan of YouTube was very people-centric, and that is more relevant today than ever before. It's also worth noting that people are leaving YouTube to go to sites like Twitch because they feel a sense of community when they join a live streamer's community. That is what also the sort of thing that YouTube was built on back in its day. The sense of community, the sense of understanding that we're all in this together. Not what we have today, where YouTube encourages people to make one-trick pony channels, and people on YouTube encourage creators, whether they know it or not, to be one-trick pony YouTubers. At least until the criticism starts flying around about how somebody is stale. They're a sellout. They've run out of ideas. They're milking something. They're running something into the ground. And whatever other negative things you want to say about content that people are still making. Hope this gives you folks some things to think about. In the meantime, I have to think about what's next for this channel, what's next for my involvement on Twitch, what's next for my involvement on Dailymotion, what's next for everything. It's the end of an era here at Jay's Geek House, the Dellasaurus Era. May it rest in peace. This is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.
No one else sees.
Mm.